but in the grand scheme of things, it didn't actually really cost him very much.
Nerb also making sure that he's not going to be pushed around. He fights back even with the level disadvantage, showing how strong Poppy is as Gunshin forces up the lane nice and early here in the mid lane, doing what he can on Vic. Muse and Relara take over here in the bot lane, as you generally expect Sivir to be able to do against Vayne early on. Vayne, one of those champions that you don't really expect to win the lane early, and Muse is trying to make sure that stays the truth.
Definitely something they need to watch out for. Seeing right now, Let Myself Go, floating down towards bot side, getting his Gromp, and then potentially going for a blue. Whether or not he's going to gank early, I don't know. It's been so long since I've actually seen an Amumu played in a competitive sense, not outside of solo queue, that I don't know if he's going to try and gank early or if he's just going to try and power farm to 6. We do see DMX invading into the jungle, pinging for a little bit of assistance for his jungler.
And this is exactly what he wants to do. You want to counter jungle Amumu. You don't let him just farm up and have his way. And now we're going to see both supports make their way in here. Relara's able to find that Winter's Bite down on a sub. Over the wall comes Gunshin. Over the wall comes Muse. DMX taken kind of low, but he's got the knock-up on the Talisman. The stun is there, and goodbye, sir. That's Space Age Wizards finding kill number 1. Can they find number 2? They aren't even going to be looking for it anymore, I don't think. They're clearing away the wards. They're looking to take the blue buff. They're going to take the jungle, take the kills, take the game. These guys want to play that early aggro now more than ever, as DMX smites the blue away, and they get away scot-free.
This is like completely different from before. The game is just super aggressive, not just over objectives, but in terms of an early invade. That's the first time we've seen an invade this early and actually succeed. And I gotta say, against an Amumu, that's devastating because he wants to get early. Ooh, High Up Nair doing tons of damage to Super Frank.
Super Frank trying to turn this one around. He's got the shield coming down, won't be able to find the stun. Does pick up the shield on his way out, but Nair's got to respect the damage coming down from Echo.
Gotta give some props where props are due, though. Nair playing it a little safe. Probably hasn't played against top lane Echo in, well, about as long as I've seen it, so it's probably very hard for him.
Sometimes that tricky pick is exactly what you need to succeed, and Super Frank takes him down in the 1v1. Now Sup's up here on cleanup duty, Mop and Bucket at the ready. If he's able to try to grab this kill, he's got the bandage over the wall. Can he actually do anything on this one? Super Frank trying to get himself away. He will flash away to safety, and he lives, finds that kill for nothing. The damage coming down from the Echo. Nerv's just not prepared for it, and he pays the price.
I think the saddest part on Nair there is that he was actually trying to bait so that Let Myself Go could actually go in. And he just died instantaneously to Super Frank jumping onto him. So, I mean, it was a good attempt, but unfortunately, you're not tanky enough to survive getting poked that hard. That first item, though, coming out from Echo being a Bami Cinder, making me assume that this is going to be like an AP Bruiser Echo instead of just being Mage Echo or Hard Tank Echo.
Well, I mean, ever since his inception, ever since Echo was originally revealed, once people got the chance to start playing him, he was pretty much always best as at least an off-tank. People just found that building him Pure Assassin didn't have the same payoffs that building him with that tanky aspect did. He's able to get in there, soak damage for a while, reset a lot of that damage with Chrono Break, and then just keep being a damage threat even though he's not building Pure Glass because of the way the scaling percents work on his stacking ability.
Definitely something that we're going to have to see Nair watch out for. And on that note, Let My Sup Go is going to have to watch out for it too, because while Let My Sup Go can reduce damage that he takes, early game, it's really just reducing his physical damage he takes, not magic damage. So if he's not careful, he's actually going to die if he tries and ganks top lane. We do see, though, DMX hovering towards that side, does get spotted out by a ward.
DMX wants to see what he can do, but it's Poppy. And tower diving Poppy is one of those champions that if you don't know exactly what you're doing, if you don't have a concrete plan, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is exactly how we kill him and walk away, he's going to slam somebody into the turret with the aggro on him. He's going to make you regret the decision. And now Talisman and Angel are here. They've got Sup, who's trying to waddle his way into the lane and make this lane gank happen. But both those guys are going to walk themselves away. Muse and Relara not even worried.
Even though there are 2 kills on the side of on the blue side right now, sorry, I kind of lost my brain there. Saw. They're still
fight
not
here in the
super far
bottom
ahead.
lane. Muse in some trouble, has to flash himself away. Bandage connects anyway. No level 6 on Sup. The knock up into the air onto Super Frank, who's got the shield. Look for the stun. He's got what he needs, at least for the time being, but he's exhausted. Trying to turn this one around. He's got the Chrono Break, and here comes DMX. Let My Sup Go, taking some damage. Still pretty healthy for the time being, but Exhaust is going to lock him down, and there he goes. DMX finds kill number 3, and the Space Age Wizards are off to an awesome start.
Talk about quite the start that they've got, and the question is, will they be able to maintain that? Thus far, it's not all on one person either. That's one kill going over to Super Frank, one kill on DMX, and one kill on Gunshin, plus this super early dragon, not quite as early as last game, but still relatively early in terms of all the games we've seen. And I don't know, this is a good footing for Solid. This is definitely what they need to do if they want to bring this game to this series to 5 games.
Absolutely. They're doing a wonderful job early on with this comp. Super Frank's Echo, awesome amounts of success. Only kill he wasn't a part of was the one there in the enemy jungle, the invade for the first blood. These other two, he's been doing a great job on. He's doing what he needs to do to make sure he's relevant on the Echo. He's given the Poppy a run for his money, and now that 8-minute dragon, like you said, that's not something crazy early. It's not the level 3, level 4 dragon 4 minutes into the game like we saw earlier, but it's still pretty early compared to the 12 and 13-minute mark where it was taken in games 1 and 2.
Definitely something to keep in mind. And just kind of seeing everybody backing off a little bit, licking their wounds. Bot lane took a ton of damage in that little engage, though. The tower is only at half health, and that's not something you want to be at whenever you're up against a team that is so willing to just chase you and dive you, especially if you've got an Echo who's going relatively tanky. That's really dangerous, because once he uses Chrono Break, he gets healed for quite a bit. If it already took you a long time to kill him, and then he gets healed for quite a bit, there's not really much that you could do about that besides CC him and hope he can't use it in time.
2,000 gold to tune to the lead here at 9 minutes into the game for the Space Age Wizards. They're happy about where this one's going, but once again, like you mentioned last game, they're an early and mid-game team. This is where they're expected to be ahead. They've got to make sure they show up in those late-game macro-level plays to make this really happen. Supco here in the top side looking for the lockdown onto Super Frank, who chrono breaks and stuns his way out, flashes just for good measure, and Sup's not able to get up there and find that lockdown to take him out.
In the grand scheme of things, though, that was probably actually worth Let My Sup Go's time. He does lose a little bit of pressure everywhere else. They do lose the bot side turret, but he did manage to get Super Frank's ult and flash out of that, and he's going to hang around and potentially get another follow-up gank.
He's still sticking around up here, absolutely. Wants to make sure this time investment does pay off at the end of the day. Knows Chrono Break and Flash are both no longer available. Shield from Rolara, dashing himself away from the tether. Knock up from Nerb. Here comes the bandage. Here comes the lockdown. Here comes the kill as they finally get themselves onto the board. Am I going to be wrong? Do they get away? No, he doesn't. Nerb's got the Flash. He's got the kill. And that's Never Clucky finally on the board, 10 minutes in.
The House Party Caster's Curse is not with you today. Barely managing to get that kill. Not even dying for it. That's impressive in and of itself, considering how little he had left over. One thing to say, though, looking at the items that we see Hiram there picking up, he did go immediately for that Spectre's Cowl, recognizing that, hey, maybe I should actually build tanky against this guy. Going to be rushing that Spirit Visage.
Now we're seeing the rest of the Wizards push up here in the mid lane. Shockwave used defensively just to clear those minions away, just to stop that push for the time being. But there are more minions coming. They've just got to get them there in time. The turret's already down to about half HP, and Saw wants to end this one quickly. Use that momentum, snowball it into an advantage that Clucky can't manage to stand up against, and win the game nice and decisively.
Seeing them pushing towards this mid side, but Let My Sup Go does not have Curse of the Sad Mummy again yet, so they're just going to have to wave clear and pray. Definitely don't want to get engaged on whenever you don't have the strongest part of your team there. Let alone not having Izumi there to back up. Yu's getting a little bit of farm in the jungle. Talisman, meanwhile, freezing the lane out where his tower used to be. Getting a little bit of CS for himself.
Ladies and gentlemen, excuse me for just a moment. I have to disconnect from this game and reconnect. I'm being informed that there's a large audio delay, probably because of a problem with the fact that we were spectating this game before the stream came back online. Some sort of mess up in there. I'm going to go dark here for about 15 seconds and reconnect, and hopefully it'll fix that problem for you guys. Stick with us.
That is more than okay. Not too much going on. A little bit of trading in the bot lane. Really just a couple of love taps from Talisman and Muse onto each other. Not really too much they're doing. We do see, though, Rolara going in, trying to get an engage on the Talisman, but he just kind of backs off. I mean, really, unless he's going to commit and use that Glacial Chasm. Ooh, meanwhile, topside, Hayam Nerb jumping onto Super Frank. Two-man gank followed by a two-man gank. So much fighting going on. Let My Sup Go just getting utterly destroyed by Gunshin and Super Frank. Not really what he was expecting when he tried to gank. I guess he wasn't quite prepared for responding to a gank with a two-man gank. Laura
All
in
right,
the
I'm
mid
back
lane.
in. Hopefully my stream, my audio, everything's going to be working out this time. Azumi Shinichi trying to get himself away from the power of Rolara's gank. Will be able to do just that. Gunshin's not there with a follow-up in time. 4-1 the overall team score. More than a 3,000 gold lead for the Wizards. They're doing a great job. Only 13 minutes into the game. But, Deck, how much longer do you think they'll be able to keep this pressure up before we stagnate into that mid-game farm fest that every single other match has turned into?
I can't really say that it's going to be too terribly long, because the thing is, it's usually in another, like, maybe 5 or 6 minutes, about the time where people start considering Baron as an important objective, because they don't want to commit too much, because they don't want to lose Baron. Losing Baron really early can devastate any lead that you have, so that's probably why we see that little bit of a lull after the 20-minute mark. Uh-oh, Gunshin in a bad spot, having to flash away.
Early Flash getting himself over the wall as here comes the Amumu lockdown into the Shockwave. That's what I talked about in Champion Select. That's the easy double kill going away at Clucky. They're looking to tie this game up as soon as possible. Nerb taking some damage from Frank, looking to step on the shield, but Nerb's got it anyway. Hammer shot comes down, he wins that trade. Ball comes out, Azumi trying to find some damage on the DMX, but without ulti and a very low mana pool, he can't go much further.
Are seeing a little bit more harass coming out in the mid lane, keeping Izumi here. Sure, does have that buff down, but not for too terribly long. Slowly seeing the push coming in towards him. He's going to have to back. He does have quite a bit of gold in his pocket, but maybe not. A little risky to stick around, though.
Izumi and Angel both doing what they can do to clear these waves away. Over the wall goes Sup. He's able to find the bandage onto Muse. No ultimate available for this one, as now he might find himself a little bit too far forward. TP's going to come in. Both top laners want to get involved, as Sup is going to die to the Boomerang Blade. Super Frank's already here. TP's not going to work out for Nerv, who now has to walk his way down to the fight, and Dragon number 2 will likely go to the Wizards.
That is definitely not the position you want to be in. The teleport, unfortunately, it seemed like it was going to be really good when the rest of the team was collapsing, but then they realized that Let Myself Go wasn't going to survive long enough for it to matter. So, in the end, the teleport just ends up getting wasted. I almost think that he should have just kind of waited to see if it was going to be worth the teleport. Mid lane going to take a ton of damage here from Gunshin, but not quite going to die yet. Getting a lot of help from his team, though, keeping that side really safe. Saw making sure that they get this early tower down.
So despite the fact that Saw lost their mid laner and their support in that awesome play coming up from the Amumu and Orianna Wombo combo, they're still up 2,500 gold. They're still looking for more. They still want to find this tier 1 turret in the mid lane. Nerv doing everything in his little poppy power to stop that from happening. Gunshin's got to back away. Gunshin does have that nice wave clear now, upgrading the Hex Core, having that power, that laser to clear everything away. Poppy rushing Spirit Visage is item number 1. Can't go for that first item, Sunfire Cape against an Echo. The armor just not going to serve you very well. Meanwhile, speaking of Sunfire Cape, exactly what you mentioned. That's Bruiser Echo showing up big.
Bruiser Echo, indeed. Something that you got to watch out for, because while he does a relatively good job tanking himself. Uh-oh, Talisman getting jumped on, but I don't think he's going to fight him. While he's relatively good at tanking up damage himself, he does a deceptively large amount of damage even when he's not actually building damage.
Nerv and Muse in the 1v1 now here in the top side. Won't be a 1v1 for long. Let My Stuff Go is here. The knock up in the air cancels the bandage connect, and because of that, Curse of the Sad Mummy will not find its way onto Muse. Rolara has to get himself back a little bit, and I don't know why Muse is being so far aggressive right on top of both these guys. Got to maintain a little bit more distance than that. He's got 1 kill, and now they might be looking for more. Nerv very low, forced to flash away, keeping himself alive, as Super Frank's got to do the same to try to avoid Talisman. With Angel already here, this is likely not a fight that Frank's able to win. Exhausted, he doesn't have the damage to turn this one around. Parallel Convergence looking to come down, will not be able to do it in time. The shield will not connect before the bolts do. They lose their top laner, they kill the enemy jungler, and they'll take down the tier 1 top. Azumi, Shinichi, and Gunshin now into a 1v1 of their own. The stun catches Azumi at the very, very edge of the radius, but the shockwave is down, the auto attack is there, and Azumi Shinichi has the outplay.
Props to Angel with the shield save combined with the summoner heal. Barely managing to save Izumi there. That was a flash shield combo.
And now that's a Rift Herald going the way of Space Age Wizards.
It's a Rift Herald that's going to be used to push up this mid side, probably, hopefully, but I can only assume that because it looks like Izumi went back. Never mind, for some reason, it looks like DMX is instead going to go for that farm. I guess maybe that tower was going to die really easily anyway, but I don't know. It seems a little bit risky when you don't actually know where Karma and the jungler are.
Risks are all about the calculations. You got to make sure that it's worth it compared to the kind of potential momentum, the gold, the experience, the everything you would lose if it fails. Let my sup go. Kind of doing what most people would have expected out of an Amumu, 0 and 4. Yeah, he's got 3 assists, so you can't just completely drag him through the dirt, but he's been dead a lot this game.
Definitely, and once again, we're seeing a little bit of a strange one where the team that we would expect to be doing really well in this early game is not actually doing super powerful. Once again, we have the tank Echo, who is utterly dominating. Yes, he's died, but he's really, really hard to kill and wastes a whole lot of time in the process. And the Wombo combo, while really good, over on the side of Never Clucky, just hasn't been enough yet. They haven't gotten enough out of using that combo.
And they're going to have to get more. They've got to cash in on that huge if they want to win these team fights. We saw what it did. The one time it was successful, it was a completely easy double kill. Just deleted both health bars off the face of the earth. Everything was great. Things came up Never Clucky. It was awesome. But when they can't land that, when the curses of the Sad Mummy only land on Relara and Muse walks out of the way, when the shockwaves only hit single targets, all of a sudden Clucky's team fight just kind of goes down the drain.
Not a position you want to be in, and they do look like they're going to be hovering towards getting some vision on this dragon side. Although Gunshin is by himself, this would be the time to catch him out. And it looks like they don't actually see him.
They won't be able to actually find anything on that for the time being. Talisman nearby. Muse, does he want to fight this one? He's got help coming. Talisman might be looking for the 1v1, but he has to know it won't be a 1v1 for long. Gunshin is here, tumbling away. Talisman trying to keep himself alive. The laser comes down. Gunshin with a flash forward. Won't be able to find the follow-up damage. Supko drops the ultimate defensively and still has to blow his own flash. Both walk away, but at the expense of double summoners plus double ultimates. Things are coming up Wizards once again. No dragon available to take, so they can't have a reward for that play, but instead, they walk away with momentum advantage. They'll walk away with the enemy blue. That's going to be Orianna not having that spam capability, and now they have the edge. Now they have the opportunity to set up vision control around the Baron pit while Super Frank pushes mid.
Was about to say, meanwhile in the halls of mid lane, Super Frank, even though he's a tank, once again, doesn't have that much damage on his kit. But he's still ripping through waves and towers with relative ease, simply by being there. Looking like they want to keep this pushing up topside. DMX getting hit by that bandage toss, but not going to do much. Relara having to flash over the wall. I think that was almost a little bit too preemptive. He could have just used his dash.
Nair coming in from behind these guys, looking to fight. They're able to find the ultimate on the 2 using Orianna. Talisman exhausted, and look at the damage from Gunshin. He is looking to erase these guys. Sup jumps himself away using the bandage, but now Nerv is alone behind enemy lines. Saving Private Pop, he's going to crash at the box office, and Nerv goes down. That's going to be a 2 for 0 so far going the way of the Wizards. Make it a 2 for 1 as Let My Sup Go barely walks away, and DMX falls.
DMX getting a little bit too antsy there, trying to get a little bit more than he probably should have, but unfortunately, didn't quite go his way. They did manage to get that tower, though. Fantastic play overall coming from Saul. You notice they wove in, they avoided clumping up together so that even though they knew that Let My Sup Go could not use the Curse of the Sad Mummy, they still avoided each other so they wouldn't get hit by too big of a shockwave. And as soon as the shockwave went down, not even 5 seconds later, Gunshin immediately drops Chaos Storm on top of both carries, forcing them to run away directly into Super Frank.
Space Age Wizards is playing this game like if they don't, they're gonna lose the series. And conveniently enough, the truth is enough to be a motivator to make this thing be 7,000 gold in their favor. This is a game that they've got the ability to close out. They've just got to find those windows. They got to make sure they don't throw. They got to make sure they don't make those macro level mistakes, and they got to make sure that they take this game to Clucky and do it in as strong of a fashion as possible. It's not just about winning at this point. It's about sending a big old message that we're not just beating you here. We're going to beat you in Game 5 too.
That's definitely something that they want to carry into the next game. If they can maintain a momentum in this game, if they can get a lead, and unlike the first game, hold on to that lead, that's a huge boost to be into the next game. That's going to put the enemy team off their rocker. They're not going to be ready for anything you bring, especially if you're going to go back to standard stuff. They're going to be expecting more cheese.
And sometimes cheese is exactly what you need. Sometimes you just need top lane Echo as a bruiser. Sometimes cheese doesn't work out. Sometimes Amumu's not doing exactly what he needs to do just yet. And looking at exactly why Supgo's Amumu isn't measuring up the way they would want it to. The ults this game. When we look at the ults, they're just not coming in where they need to come in. That big fight that happened in the bot lane, the ult wasn't available because he had to use it in his escape earlier. And once Amumu's ultimate is down, what's the threat behind him? What's to be afraid of?
Potentially considering a dive here, but uh-oh, caught out in the jungle.
Super Frank might be in some trouble. He's going to be locked down. He has no opportunity to even chrono break that when they take him down. Nice and easy. 1-2-3-Z. That one's going to be free, as now the rest of the Wizards have to back themselves away. Relara dropping the shield, trying to get himself to safety before the tether connects. He will do that by jumping to the minion, but Never Clucky's looking for turrets.
Unfortunately, Super Frank was relying a little bit too much on his ability to be a tank. He did not expect to be blown up quite that quickly, even with the crowd control.
That was a questionable glacial fissure.
I think he was hoping that he'd aim it the right way, but I guess it didn't quite go the way he wanted.
Sometimes we just have those moments where our ultimate whiffs. Everybody gets them now and then. Relara's going to be a little bit sad about that one, but Never Clucky backs away, so Wizards are fine.
Well, of the ultimates to whiff, though, I think that his is probably the one that you'd most want to whiff. I mean, besides maybe Void Rush, but Void Rush isn't really an ultimate.
Alright, so 6,000 gold, still in the favor of the Space Age Wizards. Of course, that was closed a little bit by picking off Super Frank. But now the Wizards are back in control. They got all 5 guys ready to rock, ready to force these fights if they need to. They've just got to be well aware that if they choose to force a fight in the enemy jungle, which they're ahead, so they're going to be dropping wards, looking to punish rotations, things like that. If you do fight in the jungle, if you do fight in those tight corridors, you're doing so into Amumu and Orianna, and you're doing so at risk of your own lives. And that's what Space Age Wizards always has to have in the back of their mind.
Definitely something they need to watch out for. Meanwhile, in the halls of mid lane,
DMX, that nice double knock up. The shockwave won't do anything. Talisman dead, Azumi dead, and these guys are just not finding what they need to find this game. Awesome communication, awesome combination coming out from the jungler and mid laner here on Space Age Wizards. Now that they've found 2, and not just finding 2, the single most important 2. That wasn't support and top laner. That wasn't mid laner and jungler. That was the AD carry and the mid laner, and they're both in the grave for another 25 seconds. Tier 2 turret top lane's going to fall. Tier 2 mid lane, the last turret standing for Clucky outside of their base. Scratch that. There's nothing standing for Clucky outside of their base, and Saw continues to dominate and control this game.
Call Gunshin the cleanup crew, because he is totally prepared to just completely destroy the carries every time they show their face. Both times they've gotten remotely close to the fight, he just drops that Chaos Storm on them. It does like 600 damage now if he can keep it on them long enough, combined with the AoE damage of the Death Ray. There's not really much that they can do besides, well, try not to be standing next to each other.
Victor damage is just so extreme if the champion gets ahead. And when you're building Luden's Echo into Rabadon's Death Cap, you're looking for nothing but damage. And this guy lays it down like crazy. Talisman and Azumi both just have no chance to even react to that. They're just removed from the game, from the equation, from the lane, from everything. And now they're 10,000 gold behind. Now they have nothing left to hide behind if they get caught outside of their base because all the turrets are gone. And now Saw's at what I call the house party impasse, where so many teams in House Party fail, is right here in this situation. You take down all the tier 1s, you take down all the tier 2s. Now you've got to choose how to keep up the pressure, how to actually actively win the game when it comes down to either taking Baron or forcing a fight on an inhib turret.
I have to criticize Saw right now. I do not know why they did not just go straight for Baron, because Vayne is currently bot lane and they know that Azumi isn't nearby.
Talisman's still bottom. He's still showing there. He's still on top of the creep wave, and this is the green light for Muse and the rest of Saw to either go for Baron or go for this inhibitor turret. You gotta respect that Wombo combo potential though. Sup and Azumi, both ready. Ultimates both there. Flashes are coming up across the board for Never Clucky. The only one who doesn't have it is Angel, and he's not really part of a Wombo combo. Talisman ends up pushing bottom for the last minute and a half, and there's no punish so far.
Definitely not a position that Space Age Wizards wants to be in. Looks like they're going to try and do a bait. Uh-oh.
DMX up the wall. He's able to find the knockup. Goodbye, Angel. And now, hi, I'm Nair. He's going to go the same way unless he's careful. Trying to flash himself away. Steadfast Presence already down, but there's the stun. There's the kill. There's the follow-up. And Muse has got himself a killing spree. I really like that plan. I'm really glad Space Age Wizards decided to go for that play instead of rushing the Baron directly. Even if you are in a 5v4 scenario, you're still tanking Baron, and you're still doing it against Amumu and Orianna. There's still that Wombo combo ace potential if Clucky collapses correctly, but now Clucky can't collapse correctly. That's some alliteration for you, because they've lost their front line. Now it's free. Now everything's going to come up for Space Age Wizard. Supko over the wall. He's got the bandage, but he's in there way too early. He's dead immediately. Curse of the Sad Mummy doesn't do anything except leash that Baron for him a little bit, and Space Age Wizards have found what they're looking for.
Ripping through the team like they're nothing. They don't even have the defenses to deal with this stuff. We just saw Gunshin destroy Let My Sup Go. He didn't even have time to do anything. Popped his ultimate and then immediately died. They're going to pick up this drag 4, probably turn immediately from this and just go get some kills. Easily can get a tower if they want it, maybe 2. I don't know what Clucky can do from this point. Because really, at this point, what they need to do is they just need to wait for the inevitable attempt for a throw. They're relying on Space Age Wizards to throw. This is Space Age Wizards' game right now.
Oh, beyond a shadow of a doubt. The way Never Clucky comes back into this game is the Wizards push up to an inhibitor turret, and for some reason, Gunshin and Muse both stand next to each other. Muse doesn't press Spell Shield, and then they wombo combo the two of them. That's how Clucky wins. Barring that, I don't see them doing anything. They're way too far behind.
One of the biggest problems is that they can't separate their carries very well, because both of their carries have roughly the same engage range, assuming that Azumi doesn't already have the ball on somebody. And on top of that, because they're trying to come from roughly the same directions every time, there's not really much that they can do besides, well, hope that Gunshin doesn't catch them with an ultimate. And Gunshin has done it pretty much every time, save for the last time he used that one to deal with Let My Sup Go. But that being said, opportunity after opportunity of Gunshin to just utterly rip through these guys and show that maybe you should respect the Victor damage a little bit and build a little bit more defensive.
Wizards now knocking on the door to Never Clucky's house, and Angel's doing what he can to hold these guys at bay, but Muse putting some pain down onto this top lane turret. Supko tries to go for the bandage, but will not connect on that one. Meanwhile, Super Frank and Nairb squaring off in the bot lane. Super Frank able to put down a lot of damage despite being tanky. Abyssal Scepter and Iceborne will do that for you. Muse has to get himself away. Got to be careful on that one. Using the Spell Shield only blocks the Tantrum, but he's still just fine. Sivir ulti will be used on that one, so they got to be careful about that in the future. Turret will fall as Sup goes looking for his opportunity to get himself in. Flashes forward. There's the Shockwave. Muse might be in trouble. Talisman trying to hunt him down. He's exhausted, though, in the middle of the back line, and Muse is unstoppable. Goodbye, Talisman. Goodbye, Sup. Goodbye, Never Clucky hopes and dreams. This is going to be Space Age Wizards taking the game.
It almost looked like it would be perfect, right? Because Muse managed to block the ultimate from Amumu. He blocked the Curse of the Sad Mummy. But unfortunately, he didn't block the Shockwave. But it didn't matter, because Muse is able to kite away, deal everything he needed to do, and that's going to seal the deal on this game.
Nairb knocks Gunshin away, but it doesn't even matter. He's still trying to stand 1 versus 4. Nexus turret number 2 has fallen. Nairb's about to go with it. Gunshin's already back here. Izumi Shinichi, one man cannot hold away 5. And just like that, deck, we're getting our wish. It's going to be game number 5.
When you wish upon a star. I didn't think I'd see it happen today, but call me crazy. I love it.
This is the absolute best possible scenario. House Party 5v5, Premier League, Grand Final, best of 5, going to 5. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back with the exciting conclusion to this series.